Shimasei, and welcome once again to Tinker Tailor Soldier Fry, the Let's Try program here on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. My name's Ian Horner. I'll be your navigator through tonight's proceedings as we try something new for the first time, and hopefully it works out. Maybe it doesn't, but either way we're going to have a good time. But I couldn't be here without my good friend Paul over in the Crystal Gondola on the Zeros and Ones. How's it going tonight, Paul?
Going pretty good.
Great. Glad to have you here as per usual.
Looking forward to tasting some delicious noodles.
Look, you know, it's become a proud tradition of mine to cook you dinner once a month or so.
This is great. You know, the magic streams never make me dinner.
Yeah. And even then, just a slim spread of butter between two tokens. Well, there's another group of people here that we couldn't do this without, and those are the people on the other side of the camera, our fine friends who are members at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. I mean, you don't have to watch me. You can just go to the Patreon, and we'll be very happy if you do that. But what we'd like you to do is enjoy viewing us, and if you do enjoy viewing us, consider heading on over to patreon.com/loadingreadyrun to sign up to give us some monthly dollary dues. And of course, we've got other ways. You can use twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun if you're there, youtube.com/loadingreadyrun if you're watching. You're not watching this there, but we have a panoply of other YouTube channels you can super thanks at. And of course, go to loadingreadyrun.com to remember when the store used to be at that domain. It's coming back, but for now, courage. Speaking of courage, today's going to be, I wouldn't say courage is the word that comes to mind, as Paul said before the show. This is kind of going to be the onsen episode, the bath episode of Tinker Tailor Soldier Fry, because we're making Mazemen. What is Mazemen? Mazemen is essentially ramen without the broth. It's ramen with a sauce or a tare added to it that can be emulsified through vigorous stirring, and then you've got your various toppings. In this case, it will be katsuobushi, bacon, and a onsen tamago, or a bath egg, I guess, is the English, which is why we probably don't use the English word for them all that often. Why is it called an onsen tamago, you might ask? Well, that's because they are essentially cooked at the temperature of natural hot springs in Japan. The idea being that you can put the eggs in for a few hours and you take out the eggs, and they're soft and runny, poached-esque, and then just deliciously slurpable with custardy yolks. And we've got a number of recipes that you'll be able to check in on tonight in the chat. This is from Serious Eats, the main recipe. Strangely enough, not a Kenji recipe this time, though Kenji's going to make an appearance, because while I originally thought about making the bacon and egg mazemen from scratch completely, that would involve me making some alkaline noodles, some ramen-style noodles where you bake down the baking soda and then you use that to form the noodles. But I couldn't find a pasta roller in time for the show today, so I figured let's pivot. And let's try and pit two of my favorite recipe providers against one another in a combat onsen tamago style. That's right. Just One Cookbook has a recipe for onsen tamago that uses just a pot and some thyme. Whereas Kenji Lopez Alt of Serious Eats fame and others has developed a situation using sous vide. And I'm not sure if Paul has the cloaking device on yet, but you may or may not be able to hear the sous vide machine running at.
Yeah, I haven't turned on the noise cancellation or the background noise removal stuff yet, but I do have it standing by as some of the we know from previous experience, some of the cooking utensils, especially the induction heat has got a bit of a fan in it.
It's a lot louder than most stoves I use, which is something that I never thought I'd get to say. But we're going to start off cooking the tamago because it is an ingredient in the mazemen recipe itself, and the mazemen itself isn't all that complicated despite everything you see here on the countertop. So we're going to put aside our bacon and our noodles and our... that was a wet package. Thanks, the concept of defrosting. Our eggs and our katsuobushi. Katsuobushi, for those curious, because you absolutely are, is skipjack tuna that's been dried to a wood-like hardness and then shaved into these tiny flakes, which you often see on things like okonomiyaki, the little dancing fish flakes on that. That's katsuobushi. Also really good on tofu, other things, anything you want to add a little fishy deliciousness to.
Is that related to, like, was it bonito flakes?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Skipjack tuna is also known in some areas as bonito.
Same deal.
Yep, and of course it's also the fish used in the bonito stock. How did I just lose my my mind there? Basically, the base stock that's used in almost every Japanese recipe. So, yeah, an important member of the pantry.
I guess a similar flavor, if not texture, to even just like fish sauce or something. I guess it sort of adds the same kind of sweet umami kind of.
Yeah, it's definitely an umami forward, but you're definitely getting a lot of salt there too. Just
right.
In general, because it is a creature of the sea. And
is it skipjack tuna just because that's whatever's the cheapest? Like, it feels like there's something where like the flavor of the fish probably doesn't make a huge difference because it's mostly like sort of salty, fishy flavor as opposed to a specific.
Yeah, it's the preparation that really matters the most in that sense. The skipjack tuna being the right size too to make these sort of flaky leaves. For counterexample, if you go over to Korea, they'll also use a fish broth as the base for most of their dishes, but theirs is based on some sardines that are boiled and then dried, and then you use those sardines whole to make your broth and then filter out the little fishies and the bits afterwards. Yeah. What else do I need to let you know? Tonight's beer is from Powell Brewery. It is the Monsters Like Us Double Dry Hopped Farmhouse Ale, which is funky and just a bit hoppy and quite delicious on a warm yet humid day like today.
Double dry.
For a double dose of that dry IPA hopness. I'm killing time here a bit too because, I mean, I don't think I need to kill much time because it'll probably be ready by the time we get to the point, but the sous vide machine does need to take a little time to come up to temperature. We're currently at 112 degrees Fahrenheit. You will be looking for 143 degrees target temperature for the egg.
So
bath.
the sous vide bath here is standing in for the onsen.
Exactly. Yeah. But we're actually going to start cooking the eggs in a pot too. And in fact, I guess we should just get right into this too, because otherwise we'll just spend all our time talking about the eggs and not actually cooking or eating them.
So what is sort of the major? If these are both tamago, or these are both onsen tamago, what's the major difference between these two recipes?
The major difference is that Kenji is using the sous vide machine to extend the cooking at a precise temperature that he's chosen and set as to what he likes out of the egg in terms of the firmness of the whites and, more importantly, the firmness of the yolk.
Right.
It's going to be a very poachy, very runny egg one way or another, and it's just a question of how much you like. How creamy and how hard you like that internal yolk. The reason you're using sous vide is because it's a precise method of cooking. As we learned in the 80s and into the 90s of the modernist cooking movement, cooking is a science as much as it is an art in the sense of applying temperature to ingredients in order to cook them, thereby changing their chemical properties. When a food gets to a certain temperature, the proteins and the other pieces of building blocks of life, as it were, because that's, we are eating living things, but for the most part, change in their construction. And those changes, those folds in the proteins, happen at very specific temperatures, and the bursting of cell walls happen at very specific temperatures. So if you can control the temperature to get right to the temperature you want, and hold it there as long as it needs to be at that perfect temperature, you end up with some incredibly tender, incredibly flavorful final dishes that never become tough. You can put a steak in a immersion circulator, a sous vide machine, at 55 degrees Celsius, which is my favorite temperature for medium rare steak, and just leave it there for a day, and it will never become more overcooked than that medium rare. In order to get to the medium level, you need to add a higher temperature to that. Because otherwise what happens is you just keep it at that medium rare, but then the heat gets to take its time and break down the connective tissue, giving you again that more tender steak. Similar with eggs. Eggs harden and coagulate at a very specific temperatures. Don't quote me on this because I didn't do my research on that beforehand for the actual numbers, but it's the same idea that as long as you don't go above that certain temperature, the eggs will not harden any more than that. They'll stay at that runny idea, and that's where you get the idea of the onsen tamago, being able to put the eggs in a earth-controlled temperature bath,
right.
Effectively indefinitely at that time.
And as opposed to the sort of standard, I guess, like sort of, if you want to make a soft-boiled egg, you put it in for a very precise, you put it into boiling water for a very precise amount of time, and then you just sort of catch it right as it hits that level.
Yeah.
With the sous vide, you can just have it at that temperature, and you don't need to sort of catch it as it goes by that temperature.
Exactly. The difference being, though, when you were cooking sous vide, you do kind of need to break out extra equipment and have the space, time, and money for that. Which is why we're also going to test the recipe from Just One Cookbook, one of the other places where I tend to get a lot of my Japanese recipes from. They have an onsen tamago recipe, though, that does do that sort of, I won't call it old wives' tale cooking, but it is more of that vibes-based. Okay, you're going to heat it up to boiling, then you're going to take it off at a certain time and add just a bit of this kind of water, maybe check your temperature if you want to, and supposedly it's a foolproof recipe as well. So we're going to see whose onsen tamago is the easiest and best.
So it occurs to me, like, if we're talking onsen, as in, hot springs, like, is the temperature that we're cooking this at a temperature that is actually, like, workable for a person to be in the water?
I'm curious about that myself here too. Like, I think in Celsius and cook in Fahrenheit, so I have no idea what the temperatures actually relate to, but let's find out here. What's 143 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius? 61 degrees Celsius, so that's probably hotter than you're going to want to get into a bath for yourself. Remember, just a few minutes ago I said 54 degrees Celsius is perfect temperature for making something a medium rare.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say, like, if the egg is being sous vide'd and you're in the same water, are you sous videing yourself?
Fun fact. Absolutely. In fact, you are. The difference being is that you can get into a hot bath for a short time, because you need that time for the temperature to phase through you and come to that stable temperature all the way through, which is why, generally, another reason why sous videing takes a long time to cook, because you need to bring that steak or that brisket or what have you up to the temperature that you're cooking at before it starts doing its magic in regard to the connective tissues.
All right. So you're not like actively like sharing your hot tub with eggs bobbing around.
No. I was going to say, fun fact, when you go to an onsen in Japan, the water is generally brought down in temperature a bit, either through various processes or adding cold amounts of the same hot spring water that's been cooled before, so that you are able to get into the water. There are some natural hot springs that do come up to that come up in comfortable temperatures themselves, but oftentimes they can be cooled for usable temperatures. Right, so we should get started here with Kenji's method, because his is going to take the longest time. We're going to say, set the immersion cooker to 143 degrees Fahrenheit, boil water, prepare ice bath, lower eggs into boiling water, let eggs boil for 3 minutes, transfer eggs twice bath to the ice bath for 1 full minute, and then transfer eggs to the immersion cooker and cook for 45 minutes.
Whew. Wait,
easy.
so you cook them for 3 minutes, ice them, and then cook them for 45 minutes?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Here's the, let's compare and contrast this with just one cookbook. There, we're going to prepare precisely, or as close to, 1 liter of water, and then we're going to add a little bit of cold tap water after it comes to the boil. We bring it to a boil, remove it, add the tap water to cool it down to what they say, so hopefully 82 degrees Celsius. And then gently submerge the eggs into it, cover the pot, leave it off the heat, and then just let it sit for 20 minutes for a creamy yolk, or 17 minutes for a runnier yolk.
And the idea is that the temperature will just go down naturally, so at a certain point it'll just stop cooking.
Exactly. Step 5 is remove it from the water and let the eggs just sit for 5 minutes as well. Okay, we are at temperature. And then so that'll be a total of 25 minutes of cook time from Mackey's system as it cooks those final 5 minutes outside of the water. And we'll see which one produces a better egg, because one of them certainly sounds more convenient than the other at this point.
Yeah. 45-minute egg is kind of wild. I don't think I have ever cooked an egg that slowly.
Well, I think the idea is that it's, especially for something like a brunch, is that you start it at the beginning of your cooking process, and then you can just leave them and walk away until you're ready to serve the eggs. It's the cooking process is safe. But I think what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to use the same pot of water. I'm going to boil the eggs in this one, and then we're just going to bring it back up to a boil once they're out, and work on Mackey's recipe. So we're going to start by boiling at maximum boil, and let that go. That shouldn't take too long for a liter of water.
All right, so folks, let me know if this sounds too weird, but also I'm just going to go ahead and start turning on some of the background noise removal here. 1 sec.
Good idea. Also, I'll keep talking while you do that, so people can hear if there's any difference in my voice tone. We should get started on the bacon for the bacon and egg Mazemen. So we're going to use the bacon method, which you can find. This is a very easy recipe for you to find. You can find it at baconmethod.com.
Bacon method.
And this is one of those, I think it's a homespun method that Cable Sasser just decided that he was going to, or not Cable Sasser. This was 5x5's Dan Benjamin who did this site.
So this is an entire website based on just to put one recipe up?
Yep, just the easiest way to cook bacon, and an easy place to find it if you ever need to. We're just going to fold up some of the edges here so that we can retain the grease.
I've definitely been, over the last week, as I've been, talking about the streams that are coming up, I've definitely been saying Mazemen.
Mazemen? Like a maze runner?
Yeah.
And that's fair. There's the English language, or the way that the English language uses the letters that we use, is kind of messed up in my opinion. That there is no there's no real easy way to tell how something is pronounced because it's not really standardized.
That's part of the fun. What you do is you first figure out what other language we borrowed that word from,
Yep.
and then work it, and then do a full history on that word, and find out all the weird ways it's changed over the last couple hundred years. And then it's really straightforward.
Just finished reading an article about the history of the word receipt and why there's a P in it. The English took the P out for 200 years and then put it back for no good reason.
Sure, why not?
But so in the case of this, if a Japanese person was reading it, they would know it is indeed Mazemen, because there's no way to reading it in hiragana. There's no way to there's no ambiguity.
Right, you just pronounce every letter.
Ma and ze are just right there. I need to dump out that bacon water.
So this is this just regular bacon?
Yep, this is a regular thick cut bacon.
Thick.
Yeah, I like the thick cuts. But we need, I think it's 2 or 3. Coming close to that. I'm just checking. So 4 slices. So you know what? Let's put another slice in there once we get these ones laid out.
I was specifying regular bacon as opposed to something fancy. I know, like a what do you call it? Pork belly or something.
Oh yeah. So I did have some time off where I got to go visit some family out in Lethbridge and got to introduce my mother to pork belly for the first time.
Oh really?
Yep. She'd only ever seen it in stores and thought of it as unfinished bacon. Basically.
I mean, not totally wrong.
Nope. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I found out that.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Breakers do get tripped if we have more than 2 things running at the same time.
Okay. Also, that the lights and cameras are on a different breaker than the other stuff, so that's great.
Yeah, this is a first time for everything. So that's interesting too.
None of the breakers appear to be tripped.
Oh, maybe it was those 2. 41. Studio C. DW. Yeah, nothing appears to be wrong there. And yet, didn't melt the cord, so that's not the problem. One moment, folks. Technical difficulties.
I don't think there's a power bar that's in between the 2.
Oh no. Could there be yet another power bar in behind?
No, that cable is... I'm pretty sure that... Pretty sure? Uh-oh.
I'm beginning...
Now I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
the thing is, I would have thought that the lights back there would be on the same...
oh boy, okay.
Here, I might be able to sneak back there a little
Right.
better.
While you do that, I will just adjust the bacon. Thank you. I mean, if the circuit's able to handle it, I'd love to be able to get everything running, but... You need a hand there? We keep our things in the most convenient of locations. Oh, I forgot we had that. Gonna make sure that this goes down a level here, otherwise we might end up having the fun of combustible parchment paper again, which nobody wants.
I mean, somebody in the audience
Oh,
probably.
yeah. People love to see a good fire, especially when it's in the coming up next information about it. No, this is absolutely not the first episode to trip a breaker, but yeah, this if it's a power bar, that's unfortunate. Yeah, the sous vide shouldn't be that power hungry because it is just a resistor and a propeller or impeller, probably impeller. Because it's got to make sure that it can move the water around. In addition to the circulation is part of the magic. But it's a good thing that this happened when it did, because if this occurred right in the middle of cooking some eggs, that would just throw everything into complete disarray. All right. Hearing some interesting noises back there.
Hey, look at that. In a power bar.
In a power bar, of course. All right.
So, given that the power bar tripped, we could give you an extension from one of the other plugs.
That's probably a good idea. I will. Let's get the water is pretty stable, so we'll save that for the next extension cord, and we'll just get the water back up to a boil here.
Annoying, but also power bar doing its job.
Yes. Well.
Although I guess power bar is a little more sensitive.
Yeah, I'd like to see the receipts on what it's considering its shut off stage.
It's not, the most fancy power bar. Okay.
Wow, this. Ooh, there we go. We are at boil. Oh. Let's take that off the boil for just a second here. And make sure I've got my onsen tamago timing up here. Flip, flop. Definitely gonna have to do one of these days, a survey of all of the kitchen equipment here in the moon base, just so that we know what we've got, and we can do something with it. Maybe it might be fun just to knoll everything out onto a table into a perfect pattern. How is this?
Did we just lose it again?
No, that was it. It just uncooling itself. It is still receiving power. Not to worry there. But yeah, I think if we had even thought about turning that toaster oven on, I think that power bar would have absolutely just flipped its bit.
Figure out where the closest other power is.
Yeah, we do tend to use a lot of outlets here. I mean, there's a power bar on the ceiling here. That surely can't cause any problems if we trip that. I think you're right. That's...
I hope this is
yeah. As long as that one's also not power barred. We're borrowing from the Loading Ready Live set of plugs.
The problem is that like all the plugs are like behind the set.
Yep.
So
we put power bars on them so that we can,
extended them out so that they're less of a problem.
Yeah.
Wait. Now I remember.
Ah, the hallway.
There's one right here.
Yes. Like the thing is, most of the things that are running in this room, aside from the lights, are drawing no more than 5 watts of power. 5 volts of power generally.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, sorry, not mic'd, but when we when we get set up in a new place, obviously we've done this a few times now. We are gonna know we're gonna be running a whole lighting rig. Mm-hmm. That used to be a much bigger deal.
Yeah, lighting rigs used to be a much bigger deal, says Paul, but it turns out that your noise cancellation is also Paul cancellation.
Oh, right.
But I think we're good to go, so let's get Paul back in his console and on microphone to tell us about lighting rigs.
Sorry about that. But yes, the LED lights require so much less power than the old lighting setups used to, that you don't even really need a special circuit or anything for them. Mm-hmm. Let's...
Okay. So we're going to lower the eggs into the boiling water. And then we're going to let that go for 3-minute timer. Hopefully that should be enough time for the sous vide to come up to... Oh yeah, it's just about there. 141. And I haven't caused these eggs to crack, so that's a good sign right there. Oh, that does look very, very nice on these cameras.
Egg cam.
Oh, that's right. Hey, and I brought in an album today to share with the office, given that they shipped me a damaged cover, so they had it replaced. And I figured, hey, let's give it to the office. Music for 17 musicians from James Zoo and the Metropole Orchestra. First track of which is Egg Modern. Or, sorry,
Wow.
Egg Bracket Modern.
Wait, are there other egg?
Pre-modern eggs, I guess, and perhaps the implication of postmodern eggs.
Baroque egg?
Ooh, Renaissance egg.
I consider myself to be something of a Renaissance egg.
Myself. Ooh. Oh, and we are up to temperature finally there. I think what I'm going to do is, rather than tempt fate, I'm going to finish the boil on the Just One Cookbook eggs before we start the bacon.
That is a very rollicking boil you got going on there.
Yeah, and we're at half power right now on the induction cooker.
The water on the induction cooker isn't a problem, is it?
No, not at all. In fact.
Okay.
At the very most, it'll just get underneath and maybe start sublimating. But yeah, it's just big old hunk of glass. Turn it down just a bit. Sure, why not? As long as it's still boiling, that's what it wants. Okay, we got 43 seconds left. Time is of the essence. Then we're going to lower the eggs into the ice bath for 1 full minute. And then 45 minutes in the sous vide.
I mean, just like a, just like the sort of the Swedish onsen system, right? Where you
Right,
very hot water and then go into the ice water and then back into the hot water, back into the ice water.
The problem is you can't self-flagellate with a, you can't egg flagellate, otherwise you might break the shell.
Yes, that would be bad.
Yeah, okay, 3 minutes is up. Let's ice these not babies. Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
Ice those eggs.
1 minute timer.
I like your little egg puller spoon thing.
This is one of the most magical kitchen utensils I have purchased in the past few years because I keep coming up with more and more uses for it. It's a fine mesh strainer, and it's really useful for clearing scum off the top of soups or nabes, as we've used it before, for lowering eggs into or other delicate items into boiling water and out again. For straining things before you eat them, like even oils are great, and they're extremely affordable too. And I think this one was probably $5 or so from a local restaurant supply shop. I try to get anything I use in the kitchen from restaurant supply shops these days, because you generally, if something's getting used in a commercial setting, it's meant to last.
Yeah, was it not Russell, Roscoe? Something starts with an R.
Yes, Russell Hendricks is one of our local ones.
Yeah, the supplies.
Not all restaurant supply shops, unfortunately, will sell to regular people, but Russell Hendricks, at least in Victoria, does.
Go, what? Yes, I am a restaurant.
Last thing I bought from there was too many pint glasses. 45-minute sous vide timer. Okay, great. That was fantastic.
Is there a significance that they are not floating, or that they're not that they're at the bottom of the sous vide as opposed to floating higher?
Not that I can think of.
I feel like there's all sorts of things about, like, if you're, in order to find out if an egg is the right boiling thing, it'll like float or not float, or I don't know. It's one of those like bits of woodsy wisdom that it's like either it's supposed to float or it's not, or it's supposed to not float. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, exactly. I'd really like to know what the reason is behind it. The interesting thing, though, depending on how this works, the gentle motion of the circulation should keep the yolk centered in the egg.
Oh, nice.
It's something I've found when I'm just boiling eggs normally. If you give them if you stir them every now and then, or just keep them moving, it actually keeps the yolk in the center instead of bunching up against one of the sides. So specifically, if you're making something like a deviled egg where you want that centered yolk, stir your eggs as they're cooking. Okay, it's just one cookbook time. We've got a full liter of water. We're about to make it boiling. H. No. Ah. There we go. You can really hear the induction, which is, again, one of those phrases I never thought I would say. For this one, though, we need 4 eggies. And again, I think this has to do with the thermal mass that's going on in this particular recipe.
There's actually there's a minimum number of eggs that you can use.
Yeah, the recipe comes with all sorts of huge all caps warnings right up at the front. Do not scale this recipe. It only works with these numbers. And you know what? they've done it enough times to be confident in publishing it. I will believe them in that. But yeah, it does seem to rely on the natural release of heat over time. In fact, there are separate timings if you're using a very thin bottomed pan. Thankfully, the pots I have are good and thick and retain heat in a useful manner. But sometimes you do want that pan to be responsive to your heat changes. Different tools for different things that you're cooking.
I mean, I remember actually when I was a kid, speaking of, specific timings, when I was a kid, I would, cook like fried eggs and stuff a lot. And, for our particular stove with the fairly heavy cast iron frying pan that we had, my technique that worked quite well was I would, get the frying pan and, put the butter in it and get it going, bring it up to heat, and then put the eggs in and turn the heat off.
Yep.
And the residual heat in both the cast iron frying pan and the coil was enough to cook it, almost perfectly.
When you
the problem, of course, is that only worked with that pan on that stove. It was not a replicable. So at one point we got to a different pan, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute, it doesn't work anymore."
Everything's broken now. We've talked a lot about the importance of knowing how your stove works in terms of how quickly it heats and how well. But that's a perfect example of how good it can be once you've got everything dialed in your head.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are boiling now. So what we got to do is we've got to take this off the heat, and then we're going to add 3/4 of a cup. Apparently, you be quiet. Of cold water. Feels like 3/4 of a cup, and they say that they want it to be 82 degrees or 180 Fahrenheit. So we're not quite down there yet. We're at 191. Let's add a little ice there and just see what that does to the whole equation.
I will say that I appreciate you just talked about how precise this is, and then dumped in what you felt like was 3/4 of a cup of water.
Yeah. So, and of course it wasn't very cold tap water, but also you can see how much of this is a precise recipe in very imprecise manner. Okay.
Oh.
180. We made it.
Oh, that was pretty quick.
And now we're going to lower these into there. They say do it one at a time, but I'm just built different.
Wow, they don't know about your big spoon.
No. And then cover the pot, set a timer for 20 minutes for that creamy yolk.
Do we need to wrap it in something or anything to maintain that heat, or is it's good just with the...
It's good with the covering. I think it's now supposed to cook off the temperature and bring things down. And the idea is that, after 20 minutes, we'll take it out, dry the eggs, and then let them cook for 5 minutes more. Again, burning off that residual temperature.
The sort of evaluating the temperature based on the vibes or whatever, it reminds me of, almost every year, I think, for the last couple of years during Desert Bus, we've had our friend Jared come by, who runs Jaga Silk. It's a wonderful, wonderful tea place here in Victoria. And Jared is an extremely knowledgeable and he's got a lot of tea stuff. He's that got that good kind of obsession with really wonderful tea, and talking and meeting and talking with the tea manufacturers. and the at the different farms and stuff and all these things. And he's actually, he takes lots of trips to Japan and China, and he's done the training for the sort of traditional tea things. And one of the things he talked about was the traditional thing because there's certain types of green teas require different temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional thing is you boil your water so that, that's what temperature it is there. And then you pour the water into a cup.
Yep, which reduces its temperature.
And when the outside of the cup is warm, you pour it into the next. And every time you do that, it's a 10-degree drop. And he's saying that, like, even now, now with precision stuff, it's amazing actually how accurate that is. Especially, if you're a skilled tea practitioner. Mm-hmm. That you have some experience with it. He's saying it's surprisingly accurate still. Just that pouring it from one thing to the next in order to hit whatever temperature you're really going for.
Right. I think that says a lot too about the quality and precision of work being done by the potters who are making these sorts of things.
Right, of course. Like me with the cooking eggs, right? That works assuming you're using the right kind of cup, the right size of cup, Probably a metal cup, it wouldn't work at all. But or different types of things. It's all designed to work, it all is the sort of standard thing to work together, but if anything changes it, then it messes up the whole system.
But as he'd tell you that this is something you can test on your own, right? Homemade or home access accurate thermometers are very prevalent these days, and you can very easily, find out if the water coming out of your hot water heater is in fact close to boiling, or what the temperature is that it's supposed to be, and check the temperature after you've moved between a couple of vessels. This is, gotta say, cutting while sitting is always one of the weirdest parts of these shows.
Yeah, it's true. Whenever you, cooking is almost always done standing.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the, if I can shuffle over here, you can see the angle at which my wrist is in order to get a good slice in here, and that is not optimal, folks, in terms of ergonomics.
No.
Figured I'd get these green onions sliced up while we've got half a chance before we get into anything else. So anyway, the bacon method, as we were talking about, because the bacon method is now currently in effect. Super easy, baconmethod.com. Check it out. There's no ads on the site, so that's always nice. But
be ads for bacon, one would assume.
I think actually they've got some Amazon referral links to their favored type of cookie tray. But the idea is that, first of all, heed the words of John Roderick and always cook all the bacon. I didn't this time, but it really just makes the most sense. No one ever is upset by having more bacon. So just cook the whole package. You can freeze frozen bacon if you wrap it up in paper towel and then in a Ziploc bag. Very, very cooling summer treat. It stays crispy in the frozenness. But take your package of bacon, take a cookie sheet of your choice, and I like to line it with parchment paper. You can line it with whatever else you like, or you can spray it down. You really don't. Your choice there. The way that you make your sheet nonstick is up to you. But you then take your cookie sheet, put the bacon on, just line it up as nice and neat, and stick it in a cold oven. That's the first important thing there.
Don't preheat the oven.
Yeah, do not preheat your oven. Put it in the cold oven, set your oven to 400, turn it on, and set a 20-minute timer. All ovens are different. So that's why I'm saying you set the 20-minute timer. After 20 minutes, check. Some people may have an oven that will cook their bacon in 20 minutes. Mine is not. Mine takes about 30 to get to the level I like. But the point is, the bacon's going to crisp up and fry in its own fat and just be essentially perfect when you pull it out of the oven. No muss, no fuss about that.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, the sort of, I have my apartment is like slightly odd, in the sense that I have a relatively small apartment in my building, so like I have one of the smaller apartments in the building, and so of course when they put the building in, they just get one set of appliances for the entire building, right?
Right, yeah. Mass purchases.
Right. And so I have like a very, very large fridge and oven and stuff. Larger than like, the one I had like when I was a kid. And I'm just, when you're just by yourself, like, you could it's one of these big fridges, you could put like a gallon of milk in the door of the fridge, right? And
the big ones.
And so I always feel, bad. But like, turn on the oven, and cook like whatever, a couple of like, chicken breasts or something in this huge, and it's like cooking, heating up this huge oven for like a little teeny weeny thing, which is very annoying. For the vast majority of situations, I only need an oven like the size of that one.
This would be probably perfect for you. Ooh, and the bacon is starting to curl, so we're getting there. Right. Eggs are in sous vide. Eggs are cooking. We have 11 minutes left on the eggs in the Just One cookbook pot before we have to take them out for 5 minutes. I think this might be the best time that we have to take a short break. So let's do that. Everyone get up, swap your fluids, stretch your legs, and we'll be back with not just a bit, with the finale of the egg showdown, and then we'll get to making some Mazemen. So yeah, don't go all the way away. Welcome back to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry, where I was just scared out of my mind a minute ago when everything was quiet, and I heard a ticking sound, and there are very few points in my life where a ticking sound that's audible is normal, and one of those is, I guess, when I've been set up the bomb. Turns out it's actually the timer on the stove, the oven. So that was less of a worry. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's that tick 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 tick. Interesting thing.
Also, when you're about to be attacked by a crocodile, I believe is the other time.
Yeah. So interesting thing about timers like this that are based on electrical resistance is that you can hook them up however you like. Why does Ian say these words in this order? Here's a little story. In Japan, they have two different electrical standards based on whether or not you're in the Kanto or the Kansai region, Eastern Japan and Western Japan. Eastern Japan contains Tokyo, Western Japan contains Kyoto and Osaka. There's your breakdown. I can't remember which one is 50 and which one is 60 hertz, but one of those two uses 50 hertz electricity, the other one uses 60 hertz electricity. You're building appliances for an entire nation. How do you reconcile these two areas? Well, turns out back in the day, all you did was just print two different sets of labels for the timer in different colors, and then say via color, if you're in a 60 hertz region, use the green. If you're in the 50 hertz region, use the blue. And so you'd have 180 on a green line, and then a little ways down, counterclockwise, 180 on a blue line. and you just turn to the color and time appropriate to your region.
I do love that, that particular fact about Japan. As in terms of it sort of acts as a contrast to the Japanese. Everything is so well organized and well thought out, and it's like
Clean technology.
it's like, wow, that is a very basic thing that just because of various historical reasons ended up. And Japan is not even that big a place.
No. Not very big, but very populous. And unfortunately, when you need, but everyone needs, well, not everyone needs, but everyone needs a washer and dryer.
Yeah, and it's just like, and over the years, it's never been worthwhile to fix.
To
that,
rectify those
to rectify that. You would think that eventually it would make sense from some point of view to rectify that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the reason even is, now that I think about it. I should look into that as a exercise to the user, the research.
Especially since it is something that is largely transparent to the consumer. I mean, as you said, there's the different thing, but it's it's not like whatever the switching to the metric system or something where everyone's like, but I don't want to have to relearn a whole thing.
I know, you're gonna have to learn how to turn on the lights at 60 hertz, my friend.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, by the way, this, all the things are all going to be. I mean, I guess everyone will have to, if you switch to 60 hertz, everybody in the 50 hertz thing might have to rebuy a bunch of stuff. So nobody likes that.
Well, and how much of stuff these days runs on unadulterated AC current? Like, I'm pretty sure everything, or the majority of appliances these days are, aside from easy things like hair dryers, have some sort of a AC to DC circuit inside of them.
It's true. It is kind of, It's always funny, that idea that we've got, AC power, but then everything basically except lights and even then now there were LED lights. But I guess other than heaters, basically run on DC power.
Yeah. Heaters or culinary heaters.
So it's like, we use AC power, and then everybody will have hundreds of DC converters all throughout their house.
Yep. I'm sure they're all incredibly efficient. Okay, so here's something interesting that's come up here. We got a floater here, and there was some talk about the fact that floaters may indicate a bad egg because they're full of too much gas. So I guess we're going to find that out here. Everybody remember that the top left.
As we've had,
is our floater.
So we're time. So it's 20 minutes on this.
We've done the 20 minutes in the cook, and now we're moving on to the takeout and let sit for 5 minutes portion of this cook.
Right.
And I just realized something earlier while on break about this the Just One Cookbook recipe that might make a significant difference in how our eggs are going to come out in the end. And that is the ice bath and the purpose thereof. My first thought was that the purpose of the ice bath was just there to cool down the eggs so that they stop cooking, or they stop cooking at 100 degrees. You bring them back down below that target temperature. But what it also might end up doing is shocking the eggs internally to have the whites pull away from the shell for that final cook down, which may mean we actually end up getting more white out of the egg in the end and less wastage in the shells.
I recall that being, I don't personally eat hard-boiled eggs that much, but I recall that being a hack for hard-boiled eggs is to you boil, you cook them and then put them into ice water, and that makes them a lot easier to peel.
It absolutely does. Since I've been shocking my eggs, because I like me a good hard-boiled egg. I like me a good egg salad sandwich.
Ah, yes.
And boy, when I found out how easy it was for me to make an egg salad sandwich, boil egg, cut egg, mix egg with mayonnaise, apply bread, you're done. Well, I mean, you can add mustard and whatnot.
But it's important to shock the egg the correct amount.
Gotta shock the eggy. Just enough that it, again, pulls away from the shell so that the shell naturally releases the deliciousness within. Probably time for us to start talking about the Mazemen itself, because we've got 15 minutes left on the sous vide. Our bacon is, it's looking like it's getting nice and crispy there. Gonna leave that until the timer goes ding. Wait a second, no, I didn't set a timer for that because I was using the timer on the eggs for the 20 minutes because it was a close enough time. So we should be checking the bacon right now. And you know what, let me take it out. Let's let you get a look at this here, because it's, you want to know what we're going for. That out there. So this is just about ready, I think, actually. I'm not sure which camera do we want to. There we go.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I'm really liking that, but there's still a bit of, there's still some softness. You can, floppy there. We want this good and fully crisp, so I'm going to rotate the pan, because the stuff in the back is looking like it's getting crispier. And then we'll put that in for a few more minutes.
From what I gather, one of the criticisms I've heard of toaster oven as opposed to like a full-size oven is that they do tend to be a little more uneven in their heating. There'll be hot spots and stuff. So yeah, rotating the pan makes sense.
That can be the case, but this particular toaster oven has convection modes in it as well, which definitely reduces those sorts of hot spot issues.
Is it currently convecting?
Is it currently convecting? That's a good question, Paul. The answer is yes. I can just barely hear it, but it is convecting. If I turn that off. Yep.
If there's too much convection, is there a danger that it will lift the bacon off the plate?
See, that's why we use the thick cut bacon.
Ah, right. Yeah. Good. You need to weigh down your bacon.
Weighty. I was looking into options for adding convection to ovens as well. There are no good ones currently.
I was going to say, like, put a hairdryer in beside it or something, I guess.
So I believe the company that made it was Noma, the Canadian Tire house brand, or what I think is the Canadian Tire house brand currently. And they made, back in the 80s, a clockwork device that was essentially a spring, and a method of winding it, and some gearage, and then it was attached to it was essentially a perforated pie sheet, and the propeller put in there. So essentially, it was an all-metal wind-up fan that you could then put in your regular oven, on a top rack.
So it wouldn't need to have like external power source.
Exactly, because
you don't want to put like a battery or something in the
yeah, a battery in an oven, probably a bad idea. Cord going, you could probably get away with a silicone coated cord sneaking into your oven, but
then you have to have a hole in your oven to put that through.
Well, I mean, it would probably close up against the edge, and the foam edges would probably give it enough of a good seal. But I think also just the idea of having a cord that snakes out of your oven and onto either the plugins on the top or somewhere else. The testing groups probably didn't like the idea of that.
I got into making my own granola a while ago, which is very, very tasty. Mm-hmm. Toasting it and toasting it all in the oven, very tasty. I really like the granola, but it was just like a lot of work because you get a bunch of pans and put it in the oven, and then
3-minute timer.
Have to keep taking it out of the oven and mixing it up and then putting it back in the oven over and over and over again to make sure it all mixes properly. And so I was like, what I need is like a drum roaster, right?
Yes.
And you can get those for like roasting your own coffee or popcorn or whatever. But usually they've got like, it's like a perforated bin, which
Of the sort.
which you wouldn't really want to have for granola because
There we go.
all the stuff would fall out.
That's how we like to look our bacon to look.
Very nice.
Now let's just tent this end here, because what we're also going to do, and this is very important whenever you're cooking bacon, and especially important for something like this, is we are going to, sorry for the non-view visibility, ow, 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 save the grease. Okay. Whew, we only need about a tablespoon of it or so, and that's about all we've got.
That is some good looking bacon.
Yes, and we're going to get it out of the pan and onto a sheet of paper towel there. It's very hot though. Okay, and where's my cooking chopsticks? Normally I'd use a fork for this, but hey. So that one's still a little bit wobbly, but it'll crisp up nicely as
Yeah, they crisp up a little bit as they cool, I
Yeah.
find.
There we go. And then we'll give this a little chop before we end up tossing it in with the Mazemen.
I was gonna say, I find that I often make bacon, like when I make bacon, I'll chop it up before I cook it.
Ah,
Because I'm not using this technique. I'm just cooking it in a pan.
right.
And so I'll just, I'll take the slab of bacon and chop it, length or width-wise, I guess, and then put it in, and then cook little pieces. But maybe it's better to cook them as full pieces and then chop it up afterwards. I don't know.
The reason I like to cook as full pieces and then chop afterwards is specifically for what I'm doing right now. It's a lot easier to retrieve the oil from large pieces of bacon than try and
Right.
portion out or scoop. I mean, again, this one's probably a bit fine for bacon grease, but I would have to use something to scoop the bacon bits out of the grease, unless I was planning to use all of the grease in the cooking that I was doing.
I feel like maybe cooking it as like whole pieces of bacon, you end up with keeping maybe more of the fat sort of in the bacon.
I think that might be
For like I find sometimes when you chop it up into pieces and then cook it, it turns into sort of bacon bits. Like it gets they'll sort of because all the fat will cook out, and so they'll each rather than the whole piece curling up, each individual little thing will curl up, and they'll get quite small.
Well, it makes perfect sense too, because by chopping it up beforehand, you're increasing the surface area on the fat.
Right.
Adding extra edges, and so yeah, of course you get more fat rendering and probably a leaner. But again, then you still got to worry about separating out the oil after the fact. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's looking pretty good. We've got 7 minutes left on the sous videing, so I'm going to get started with the Mazemen here, because we need to make a sauce. We've got men on it. Mazemen. Which is weird, because the men in Mazemen literally means noodle. I'm not sure. I'm unsure what the maze is, but the men is. Whenever you hear.
Right. There's like there's a place here in town called like Menbo
Yeah, exactly.
ramen. Yeah.
Sukemen is another popular noodle dish. Anyway, use bacon, non-stick skillet, medium heat, cooking, yada yada yada. Use the slotted spoon, transfer your bacon. Incorrect. You should use the bacon method to always cook your bacon. Okay, we'll crumble it up when it's ready in a large mixing bowl. This is the important part. We now need to combine soy sauce, mirin, vinegar, and sugar. Where the sugar is always the... I like to do my dries first because then I don't have to wash my measuring implements. But we're only looking for a teaspoon of sugar, so that's not too much. Almost just enough left. All right, sugar added. Soy sauce, mirin, vinegar, sugar.
And I believe Spade Slick in the chat, I believe it's correct saying that maize just means mix. So it's just like
yes,
noodle,
yep.
noodle mix.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Spades.
Which is one of those like, you know, the thing like, what is it? Chop suey just means pile of stuff or something.
Yep. Okay, so that's the two mirins. No, wait, that was the two rice vinegar. Now we're moving on to mirin, which contains rice, water, alcohol, corn syrup, and mold culture. Ooh. Aspergillus oryzae with a Y. Teaspoons.
Hopefully just that one mold culture. Just the mold culture we want.
Yeah, mold culture bracket affectionate. Or desirable.
Right.
Okay.
It is a tamed mold culture.
And half tablespoon is such a weird and yet useful measure.
A half tablespoon.
Okay. And 3 tablespoons of the soy sauce.
Right, because a half tablespoon, because a teaspoon is like, there are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, right?
So it's difficult to ever...
So it's like 7.5 milliliters, I guess?
I mean, yeah, you're exactly... The stamped labeling on this very spoon seems to suggest yes. If this is a 15 mil, then half of that would be 7.5. Good mathing. Should have that as a button available. Okay, we need to whisk this until the sugar is dissolved. That won't take much time.
So we got soy sauce and what all was in this? Just
soy sauce, mirin, and rice wine vinegar.
What is mirin?
Mirin is sort of a sweet combination of rice wine, sake, sweetener, and water. That's why you get the ethyl alcohol and corn syrup in this one. This is I don't think it's a properly brewed mirin, which is why it's, yep, am I right? Hon mirin, yep. It's a sweet cooking seasoning.
It doesn't actually have alcohol in it, or it hasn't actually like formed any alcohol yet.
Well, no, it's got the ethyl alcohol in it already.
Oh, I see.
But that will again mostly evaporate off. It's just kind of there to add the flavor and add sort of a what's the word? Solvent for flavors. Okay, we've done that. Next up, stir in the 2 tablespoons. Oh man, I don't know if we got 2 tablespoons of that out of the bacon.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, but I'm gonna add it all.
Damn our healthy bacon.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
It must have been very svelte pigs.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add just a little bit of canola oil then there too, just to fill that out. And then we're just going to give it a bit more whisking to kind of pre-emulsify things.
What? Would mirin be the primary flavoring in like a? I'm just thinking like a sonomo salad kind of thing. That sort of almost vinegary, kind of sweet.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it.
Am I saying that right? Sonomo salad.
Sunamono.
Sunamono. That's it. There's extra syllable in there I was missing.
Yeah, you'll find it's a little bit more. Not the vinegar. It provides the sweetness, but you often do get rice wine vinegar and mirin mixed together for that sweet, sour, salty combination. And in fact, that's essentially what we've done. Sweet from the mirin, salty, or sweet from the mirin, sour from the rice wine vinegar, and salty from the soy sauce. There's your flavor profile, folks. I don't make the rules.
I do like that, you can tell in Japanese culture, there's so much of the, both soy and rice, and there's dozens of different things that are, composed of almost the same elements. Just there's like rice wine, rice wine vinegar, the mirin, all these different things are effectively, like if you looked at them from sort of a chemical point of view, they would be very similar, but it's all about how they're prepared and how they're, if they're aged or not aged, or things that are added to them that make them an entirely different thing.
When you learn the trick about how that teriyaki sauce is again just soy sauce, mirin, and vinegar in the right. I made a yakitori sauce the other night because I was grilling yakitori on my barbecue, and again that was soy sauce, mirin, and rice wine vinegar. Though that also had ginger and green onions in it as well for extra flavor.
Right. So yeah, the difference between all the different sauces ultimately is not that big, but important.
Yes, exactly. The subtle differences between.
But it's indicative, of a culture who has really gone deep on this one ingredient and figured out, all the wonderful myriad ways that you can cook with it and prepare it and use it.
Oh. Safe though. Okay, let's get one out of there, and then let's be less fancy.
So are these now going to be ice bathed or
these
something?
These ones are effectively done at this
point.
They're
done? Okay.
I am led to believe.
So can we want to make sure we keep them separate so we know which are which, I guess.
That is why they are on a separate piece of paper towel. So at this point, we should boil our noodles. And then we can assemble the Mazemen, because I think that's about it.
Can you sous vide noodles? Is that a thing?
So I don't think sous videing noodles would work.
Like get them exactly the right al dente and then it just stays that way?
Yeah, not in the way that you were thinking. But if you cooked noodles in the way that you cook noodles, which is, say, in water, and then you strained them and, added an oil to them for to keep them from clumping up a bit, I guess, as a way of speeding up your cooking time to just make a sauce, you technically could put them in their own little sealed Ziploc bag and then put them in a sous vide machine just to keep them warm. I
guess I'm just thinking, like, normally you boil noodles, or you sort of like you boil the water and then you turn it down to simmer and put the noodles in. But what if instead of like simmering the water was at like a very precise lower temperature? Would that just make the noodles take really long to cook, or could you actually like hold it at it?
Yeah, pasta, you can't hold pasta that way. It's you can slow cook noodles on less than boiling water, just over a slightly different amount of time. And you can definitely I've cooked a lot of pasta recently where you put in a lot less water than you think. Just cover the noodles, and then cook until you've boiled off most of the water, honestly, or cooked into the pasta most of the water. And then
interesting.
that remaining water is so full of the residual starches that have been in there that it becomes incredibly easy to make a sauce with just that.
So rather than like making the sauce separately and combining them, you can sort of do it right there.
Especially if you're making a cream sauce.
Interesting.
It really makes it easy.
I feel like my perception was always that you needed to have a certain amount of water, otherwise it would start sticking together, but maybe that's not actually true.
I can confirm from experience that is not necessary. All right. I'm going to chop up this bacon here. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. As our sauce is readied. Our onions are readied. Our katsuobushi is pre-packaged. And the noodles are ready.
What kind of noodles are these?
These are store-bought Japanese noodle bracket ramen. From the Takfung Enterprises Co.
These are a little fancier than just like the sort of hard noodle cakes that you kind of get usually.
Yeah.
These are
these are fresh noodle essentially.
Oh, I see.
And it looks like we've got one extra package, so I guess somebody's getting a snack later on this week.
I feel like extra noodles are not usually a problem.
Generally not, but an entire extra portion on top of a regular portion could be a bit much. But I am going to cook them all at once, and then we're going to spread it out afterwards. Let's just chop up some bacon. There we go. Little lardons. So unfortunately, I'm going to... I still had leftovers from last night, but I am going to be eating my portion of the ramen tonight, and then Corey will get a extra big helping of salmon sashimi, which is what we've been having. Turns out that Costco salmon, just their standard raised without antibiotic stuff, makes great sashimi. And so we had a chirashi don, well, not even chirashi, just a salmon don last night with that. Which only takes, you just take your Costco salmon, cover it in kosher salt for 20 minutes on both sides, rinse the salt off, and Bob's your uncle.
Wow. So I really like sashimi. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I go to a sushi restaurant, I will often order that as opposed to, like, I don't need a whole bunch of rice. I just want the
good stuff.
I want the good stuff. But of course, it is extremely expensive usually.
Yes.
Often especially around here. And so, you do look at. Now, I've always worked under the idea that the salmon or the tuna or whatever that is just like at the grocery store. That there's a difference between like sushi grade and just the regular stuff. Mm-hmm. In that the regular stuff you shouldn't eat raw, or at least there's no, in that sushi grade there's like a whole process where it's been flash frozen or flash cooled, and it's never been above a certain temperature, and there's a certain chain of ownership and blah 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 to make sure that it's safe. Whereas the other stuff is fine if it's being cooked, but there's not that same kind of guarantee.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is when it comes to the grabbing making your own Costco sashimi from their local tuna steaks or their fish. All fish, at least in the United States, and I think the regulations might also extend to Canada, does need to be flash frozen on ship or on shore, and it's generally done on ship because it's cheaper and easier to do it there.
so they don't, and they can stay out for longer, I guess.
And the idea is that with this freezing is that food can be considered parasite safe if it's been frozen to a certain deepness level at a certain time. And for the most part, your salmon from your Costco has undergone that sort of flash freezing. What you're getting is just the thawed stuff. It means that when you see something that says previously frozen, that's not actually a bad thing. That's actually required by law.
Right.
Yeah. The key when you're doing this is really just to get the freshest fish possible. So I would recommend calling your local Costco or other. I can't speak to any other distributors, but call them up and let them know, or ask them when they get their fish in, because then that's going to be the freshest fish that you can get from that location.
I remember way back in the day, Morgan coming over, and he just had bought like a salmon fillet from Safeway. And it was just come over, and I was just sort of casually eating it, just raw, from the package or whatever. And we were like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What? It's like sashimi, right?"
Yeah.
And we were like, "No." And at the time, we were like, "No, the sashimi. There's a whole like preparation process, and it's like a special thing. You can't just eat the stuff." Great, and maybe we were wrong about that.
He was very close. Yeah, you just need that 20-minute cure to firm up the meat just a bit to make it easier to cut and make it more palatable. The salt doesn't affect the taste at all.
Right.
But Inconsiderate Hat asks, if I live inland, should I just assume I'm not getting a sushi safe fish? So here's the thing. Is that there is no such thing as sushi grade or sushi safe as in terms of a regulated
as an
word.
Official designation.
Yeah. You probably want to buy your fish. It's probably being sent to your sushi restaurant frozen in a block, ready for use already, and they spend their time very slowly bringing it back up to temperature so that it doesn't. You don't pop too many cells. But I mean, we here in Victoria do not have a fish processing commercial area. So our fish actually comes over from Vancouver. It's frozen on ship, sent to Vancouver for processing, and then brought over here.
I mean, there is like Fisherman's Wharf and stuff. Like there is a little bit of fishing, but it's certainly not a industry here.
No, and certainly not for things like sushi tuna.
Right.
Or your other more exotic Japanese fishes. How much do we want to use of this?
And I mean, I remember actually reading about the extremely profitable and extensive trade network between Norway and Japan for, I believe it's bluefin tuna.
Yes.
That for a variety, because of extensive marketing and different things, the Norway was like, "Hey, we need to get a good customer base for these fish," and Japan wasn't that interested in that particular type of fish, and then there was a whole marketing thing. So
yeah, you're very close, Paul. That was salmon.
It was salmon, not. Oh, it wasn't. Right.
Salmon wasn't traditionally part of the Japanese diet.
Right, not tuna. Yeah, salmon, and then and so it's become this like massive thing, and so I mean, you're talking about like living inland. That's literally hundreds of thousands of pounds of salmon are being imported to Japan from Norway. Like, you can't get much farther away than that.
Yep.
And that's, being used by the greatest sushi chefs in the world. So, who knows?
Yep.
Turns out with, modern freezing and packaging and transportation techniques, it's not actually that big a deal to get sushi wherever.
Garobe says, Ikejime, brain and spinal cord destruction, can extend the shelf life of fish because it avoids the adrenaline spike and lactic acid buildup from muscle spasms after the ship is taken out of the water. Interesting. I wasn't aware of that particular process. Alrighty. Noodles are heating. Bacon is done and ready. Katsuobushi is in the package, ready to go. Onions are ready. We just have now. We'll do our crack reveal of our tamagos as the last bit, I think. Ooh. Spitting water there. Let's put that down.
I would say that at least my perception, in consider has saying, should I assume that the highway grocery delivery trucks brought the salmon in frozen if it's now thawed on a tray, or should I get the frozen? Like, I'm pretty sure any salmon or any fish that you're getting at the supermarket, whether it's frozen or thawed, was frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, unless you're buying it, on the wharf or something.
Yeah, correct. The fish that I am using from Costco is thawed in the tray. Highway grocery delivery trucks. Okay, sorry. Brought in via highway grocery. I thought you were referring to those roadside stands you sometimes see selling seafood on the side of the road or the side of the highway.
But it would be transported in like a refrigerator truck, or a freezer truck.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not certain where they do the thawing and where they do the freezing for those, but.
And of course, usually it will be sitting in the counter, often like on ice or something.
Mm-hmm. Again, that's why I come back to the phrase "freshest possible."
Mm.
It's not going to be right out of the sea, and in fact, you don't want it right out of the sea either. And freshwater fish is right out. Don't touch that raw. That's
really freshwater fish is worse than sea fish.
My understanding is that there's a lot more in there, and also the rules around freezing are very different for freshwater fish.
Interesting.
Okay. Let's begin. Noodles. I didn't check to see how long these have to boil for. Cooking instruction. Place one noodle in boiling water for up to... Wait, from
what?
1 to...
What if we want to do more than one noodle at a time?
Yeah. 1 to 1.5 minutes. Combine soup paste and 2 cups of boiling water with soup in soup bowl. Place the strained cooked noodle in bowl and add green onion, meat,
Okay.
or your favorite vegetable. Green onion, meat, or your favorite vegetable.
The meat of a green onion.
Yeah, we don't have any green onion meat here, unfortunately, but...
Okay, so if one is a minute and a half, and we want to cook, say, I don't know, 20 or 30 noodles...
It's that one step up from rice, right? I just want to eat 30 of one thing.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, let's get that in there and say 1 minute timer.
Was that a machine translation? Possibly. Yeah. Or it also could just be a regular bad translation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need machines to poorly translate things. Sometimes you can do that on your own.
Humanity... Miscommunication finds a way. This particular strainer is not necessary. I just like it.
Although I will... Do you normally cook your noodles sort of contained like that?
Yes, I do, because it makes them a lot. You'll see in a second that it makes them a lot easier to deal with in terms of.
I mean, this is again, I feel like maybe nobody even told me this, but my perception is that you want the noodles to have space to sort of separate out from each other so they don't stick together. But
Correct.
that has no scientific basis on my end. That's just my feeling of what it should be happening.
Yeah, so there is still some separation of noodles that needs to occur, but
But it doesn't need the whole pot.
no. These ones, though, are kind of getting... The idea is that the boiling of the water is going to agitate the noodles as well to a certain point to get them to come apart.
Right.
But
Ooh,
here
the water has gone very yellow.
Yes.
These I feel like these are particularly colorful, strongly colored noodles.
I think they're fairly oiled, too. These might not be my favorite brand of noodles, but they were what was available at the time. Here we go. Probably should have added more water in there, too. But.
Do you, the fresh noodles makes a big difference, though, eh?
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to the sort of cake of noodles that you often get.
Well, those are, the caked noodles are generally, those are meant for instant.
It's a whole different thing.
And the way that they're prepared for instant preparation is that they're essentially freeze-dried. Like, they're cooked, and then they are flash-fried, and then frozen.
Right, I guess similar to like instant rice and stuff too,
Yeah,
I guess.
a little bit.
Where it's like cooked and then dehydrated.
Par cooked. Okay, I think...
Fresh noodles won't clump up the same way box of... Yeah.
Won't they?
Or they're better with it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is about as good as we're going to get. So now we're going to turn off the heat.
Are these egg noodles?
No, these should be flour.
These are flour noodles.
The color is going to come from that kansui, that alkaline baking soda.
Yeah, we actually had a bit of a discussion about this beforehand. The recipe that Ian's working with talked about, how to making. It was calling. I linked to it before, but it was sort of calling this a alkaline noodle carbonara sort of thing. And I hadn't actually heard of ramen noodles called alkaline noodles before. Yeah, Ian explained the difference between sort of Japanese, I guess, sort of generally Japanese noodles versus like Italian noodles or, whatever. The sort of different styles of noodles. And it's the alkaline, which gives it a bit of a sort of a slipperiness to it that
It's the chewiness that you get more than anything else.
Right.
12. Okay, let's toss this. So the idea is we're trying to use some of the residual heat to cook and emulsify all the stuff we had in there before, along with the bacon. Oh yeah, there's going to be a few dry-ish noodles in here, but we'll see how that should be okay. Oh yeah, definitely. You can see there's basically nothing left of the sauce. It's all stuck to the noodles, which is exactly what we want here.
Yummy.
So let's then dish that out into the two portions.
This is so you dish it out before you then add all the actual stuff to it.
Exactly. The idea is that you get a nice presentation, and then the customer gets to do the mixing themselves.
So this is interesting. I find this Mazemen. I often find ramen to be you sort of doing a lot of soup slurping, having it the sort of drier version of the same thing is an interesting idea.
Yeah, Mazemen is definitely the... it's not something I've ever ordered because one of my favorite things about ramen is the broth.
Right.
But it is definitely the hotness in Japan and internationally right now as well.
Oh, really? That's sort of a trend right now?
Yeah, people are really liking their Mazemen. Okay, I'm gonna throw in the bacon. That's
Right, yeah, and that's sort of... I guess, yeah, and that's sort of a Japanese particular thing, too, with the sort of having the different things as opposed to mixing it all together and putting it into the container.
yeah. You get to see. You got to be conscious of your presentation. All right, and then some green onions for both of us. I think I'm getting good at that. Okay. And then let's get the katsuobushi on there too. Ooh. You know what? I'm just going to use half the package each because that's a lot.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they suggest 2.5. We'll see if that's necessary. Now comes the moment of truth, Enos.
Ah, yes. So we've got 6 eggs, 2 of each, or 2 of the sous vide and
Yes.
4 of the other ones.
So let's start with one of the Just One Cookbook eggs. I'm going to very gently crack this here.
So what are we looking for? It should be sort of have it should be solid but sort of almost custardy.
Well, not necessarily solid either, but it's definitely got to stay together. Okay, there we go.
Ah.
So a lot of big yolk, not too much in terms of coagulation in the white. I think that's going to be quite nice. Mostly all came out of the shell too, which is a good sign.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's see how Kenji's did.
I mean, to me, that seems a little sort of undercooked, but I guess that's not that. I guess that's the intention, is that it's sort of the more a lot.
Okay, interesting here.
Ah,
Kenji's is completely,
the yolk and the white have completely separated.
and the white is not.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's. I would consider that a failure, to be honest.
And that's the one with the ice bath that we thought would help with that.
Yeah, and the sous vide, which we thought would be a perfect.
It definitely cooked it more.
Yeah, but it's not a. This is definitely not something that's easily peelable. Just because I'm curious, I'm going to open the other one as well and just see how that looks on the inside.
The interesting thing is the white is solid, but the yolk seems to be almost sort of untouched in some ways.
Okay, this one looks like it's got a bit more.
Oh, there we go.
But again, same problem. That white just completely cooked and solidified itself to the edge of the shell.
Interesting.
So, yeah, wow. That's, in my mind, that's going to be a definitive...
Not a good showing for the sous vide.
No. I'm just going to set those aside on... Well, you know what? Let's just have a look at the yolk, too, see how it opens up. And yeah, that just spills out like no one's business. Not at all custarded.
So that's really interesting. So the white is more cooked than the other one, but the yolk is less cooked than the other one.
Yeah, just going to add that to there. Let's crack open a second one here of the Just One cookbooks.
I'm sure there's been all sorts of studies about the relative, how the proteins in the white versus the yolk interact with heat.
Yes.
Ooh,
All right, I'm going to deliver
I mean,
you...
that looks about right, I guess, how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. It looks like the picture.
Very custardy.
Yes. All right, so you're just going to want to mix that all up.
Oh, thank you
I'll give you a...
So the intention is that it is to be all mixed up?
Yep. Yeah, you're not supposed to just pick little bits. It's just all mix it all up together and then shovel it in.
Right, I see. Because so the egg is almost like the sort of because of how the egg is done, it almost becomes part of the sauce as opposed to being like pieces of egg.
Yeah, which is where you get that idea of people calling it like a carbonara.
Right, the egg almost becomes like a cream sauce. Interesting.
So yeah, don't be afraid to get vigorous when you're mixing up. Or even take the 2 chopsticks apart and use those to help you out.
Oh no, my noodles have like formed a kind of it's hard to sort of
Oh no,
stop everything. It's like the noodles kind of form a ball and keep all the other things out of the
Yep.
and you end up with just a bunch of stuff around the outside rather than inside with the noodles.
So when I say it's okay to separate 1 chopstick in each hand if you want to there. All right, let's see how we do. Try and grab a bit. I think if I'm disappointed in something, it's the noodles the most, to be honest,
Oh really?
so far. However,
Wow.
that is really good.
That is, and it really does have that like almost like a cream sauce.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the onsen tamago is necessary for you got to have a partially cooked egg to make the sauce work the right way, but
Yeah, the egg. Like I gotta say, I'm somebody who when I get like a eggs Benedict or something, like I usually go for like a relatively hard poached egg. I don't really like a lot of like a. I don't really like a runny, especially the white of the egg. I don't like a runny white of the egg. And so I was a little put off by the runniness of the egg, but
Right.
once it sort of mixes in and it just almost becomes the sauce, it is very good.
yeah, thank you. This is I think this is. Don't know if this will be a regular dish in the Horner household, but definitely something I can see making again in the future. Maybe with a bit more.
It's nice that the best way to do it's nice that the way that to do the egg well is the faster way. The way that doesn't require 45 minutes and setting up the sous vide machine.
Yeah, I never would have expected that.
I mean, I feel like maybe there could be some sort of redemptive thing for the sous vide, that there was some aspect of it that didn't hit the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a mistake on my part in there, but seemed to follow the instructions pretty much to the letter.
The way the yolk completely, like, that was quite different from like a soft boiled egg would be very different. Like that was the kind of interesting, like the white almost seemed to be, fully cooked, hard boiled.
Yeah,
Then the yolk was almost uncooked. It was almost like some sort of weird magic trick.
Yeah, I would consider that to be a if you showed me one of Kenji's eggs, I would say that's a soft-boiled egg right there. That is not something that you crack, peel, and then put into a bowl. It's something you put in a special holder, crack the top off of, and scrape the insides out with a spoon. But yes, for those asking, the winning onsen tamago in this particular cook-off was the Just One cookbook recipe. As as weird as it seems, with its folksy, just add a bit of cold water till you get to a certain temperature, and then leave the eggs out for 5 minutes to cook more. It seemed to do the better job.
And remember, you have to make 4 at once.
So yeah, double up the rest of your recipe, then, is what we're saying.
It's really interesting, because of course the soy sauce and the tuna flakes are quite salty, and the bacon is also salty, but they're sort of slightly differently salty. I don't know how to quite to explain it, but like it feels like you can sort of distinctly taste the saltiness of the fish and then the saltiness of the bacon as like 2 different flavors.
Yep. So it's because they're different flavors. I was going to say it's the umami, but no, it's not. They all contain umami in them, just in different levels and different ways. But yeah, the trace elements, like the smoke in the bacon, is going to come through and cause it to have a slightly different salty flavor than the fish, which is going to have it's sort of a dried fish flavor that's in the background. And the soy sauce, well, I mean, hey, there's a reason that there are thousands of different brands of soy sauce, each with their own secret recipe, that are all slightly different from each other. But I think that's a good place for us to shut down the stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching here. This has been an eye-opening experience and and as usual, a mouth-opening experience as well for the 2 of us in studio. But I hope you enjoyed watching. Once again, if you want to help us out, do check out patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. It's the place that we like to send people for recurring support in the monetary variety. And again, of course, twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun is where we broadcast, where you can subscribe and give us some bits, and youtube.com/loadingreadyrun, and many other channels also exist for your perusal of our VODs, pre-recorded content, sketches, crap shots, magic content. It's all available, linked off of loadingreadyrun.com. So once again, from myself and from Paul in the Crystal Gondola, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in a fortnight. Never in fortnight, ever forward. Learning out of spite. Good night.